Hey fellow readers, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla from Live Laugh Love Reading. I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 books that I read in August. As you know from my last video, the summer started out a little bit as a reading slump, but it's okay now. And after I posted that video, I actually got through a lot of books. The total number of books I read was 5, but it's not about quantity, it's all about quality, and I think these were some quality books. I wouldn't rate any of them below 3 stars. I think that's actually pretty good. I started out this month reading Sweet Heat. Of course, it is the continuation of Honey and Spice with the same characters. In this case, it is about Kiki Banjo, who graduated college and is now 28 years old, and her and Malachi have broken up. But as soon as her best friend gets engaged, she soon now has to actually interact with her ex, Malachi. If you really enjoyed Honey and Spice for the witty banter and the fun characters, and of course the romance and Kiki and Malachi's story, how they come back together, then I definitely think you're going to enjoy this one. I still think I may prefer Honey and Spice, especially the setting and the uniqueness of it being on a college campus, but I still think Sweet Heat is something that is enjoyable. If you enjoyed the first one, it's a continuation of the story. I don't think you necessarily have to read Honey and Spice, but I think it makes the experience better to have read the first one. The next book I read was Quarter Love Crisis. This one I actually received as an ARC as well from the publisher, and it's also interesting because just like Honey and Spice, it is also written by a Black British author, which I thought was really cool. The story also did not disappoint. I mentioned that I thought it had this Bridget Jones quality about it, and it absolutely did, but it was a little bit more unique than that, and I love the message behind it as well. The story follows a young woman who has been working at an event planning agency for some time now and is really looking for that next step. She wants a promotion, and she hasn't gotten one just yet. She feels as though she's sort of stagnant in life and things haven't happened the way that she initially planned. She is a huge planner. She has so many lists of what she wants to achieve by the time she's 30, by the time she's 28, so on and so forth. And in this case, her life is sort of turned upside down when she finally gets the opportunity to really plan an event for an up-and-coming influencer, and she has to actually work with her primary school nemesis. She builds a friendship with him over the course of the book, and it ultimately turns into a romance. Of course, we love that part of it. But, and not to spoil anything, but this really is about her journey of learning that you do not have to be at a certain place in life. It is a journey. It's all about getting better. It's not about achieving something by a certain age. And I think the author got that point across beautifully in the way that she presented certain characters, telling her different stories, and also the way that she learned through her work that it's all about finding what she's passionate about and continuing that learning and keeping up that drive. And next up is Summer in the City. I actually had a hard copy of this one. Beautiful cover and also a really funny, cute romance. It reminded me so much of the early 2000s rom-coms that I grew up on. And the fact that it was set in New York City was also a bonus, a cherry on top. The story is about a young, successful 27-year-old screenwriter. She just moved to New York to house sit. And in the course of the summer, she is hoping to write a screenplay with several New York locations featured. But of course, we have a flashback. The billionaire who is living across the street from her, or across the hallway from her, she had a run-in with a couple of years ago, and it didn't turn out very well. They said some mean things to each other, and now they actually hit it off, become friends, and he asks her to spend some time with him, and he'll show her the city to help her write this screenplay. Of course, it's a little bit of an enemies to friends to lovers romance. I love the twists and turns. It felt like a movie was playing out in my head. I just enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the plot. I was telling my mom about it and she was like, oh, that is really interesting. There were a lot of twists and I just liked the way that the story flowed and the characters sort of interacted with each other, and the main character sort of gets outside of her bubble. I forgot to mention she's an anonymous screenwriter, so the experiences that she has in this bring her out of her shell to open up to the summer in the city. The next one up is Wild Reverence from Rebecca Ross. She is the author of the Divine Rivals duology, and this book is a prequel to that series. Divine Rivals was a beautiful enemies to lovers romance. There was, beautiful storytelling, writing, and an interesting fantasy world. It was unique, and I think all of that is present in Wild Reverence. Wild Reverence tells the story of Matilda, who is the herald of the gods, and basically she can jump worlds. She can jump from Earth to the sky world and the underworld, and it's sort of this really fun world building. Everything that people had questions about in Divine Rivals, you get more of an explanation for how the world works, how the fantasy and magic elements work, and I think it was an interesting foray into that. I was hesitant about this book because it is a prequel, and Divine Rivals was so much fun, and I didn't really mind that I didn't understand a lot of the world building. It was, the vibes, it was, about the main characters' connection with each other. But in Wild Reverence, it is, I felt, a lot more about the world building. Her story is so vast and it's so long. The first act is very interesting. There's a little bit of a suspense element, not to spoil anything, but there's suspense about who her father is, and then also what her true powers may be, because this is a world in which these characters can steal each other's powers. I definitely feel like the romance could have been further developed. It just felt like it was so quick, as though they met each other once and in a few dreams, and then suddenly they're falling in love with each other. I think one of the relationships that people will take away from is Matilda's relationship with Bodhi, or is it Bode? I don't remember, but it's basically her father figure who trains her and mentors her throughout the book. I think that is the relationship that people are gonna take away from, because it's almost like he became the father figure that she never had, and she became the daughter that he never had. And I thought that that was actually very sweet. That was a sweet part of this book. And I also thought that there would be more of a development on the mystery that was presented in the beginning of the book. It just seemed like that sort of fell to the wayside, but I really wonder what other people are going to take from this. It's a bit longer, it felt like, than Divine Rivals. I think it was told in 5 acts, so it was just so much. But it definitely did give a lot of context to what happened in Divine Rivals, those dynamics in, the magic and the fantasy elements of it. But overall, an interesting story, plot, and I enjoyed it. Let Them by Mel Robbins. The Let Them Theory. It really is a great read. It wasn't necessarily Let Them. I think the book title is Let Them because it's catchy, and that was the video that probably sparked it and it went viral. But a lot of this book is focused on let me. It is focused on you as a person taking advantage of your life, being motivated and taking advantage of, your health, your energy, your life, and relationships. While Mel Robbins is not an expert, she does cite other psychologists and sociologists about their experience and research in different areas. And I think you can take maybe 1 or 2 things from it. You don't have to take everything from this book, but I think it is a tool that people should read and maybe consider. So those are the 5 books that I read in the month of August. It was a great month, even though it started out with a reading slump. It isn't how you start, it's how you finish. Going into September, I'm looking forward to reading The Best Man, Unfinished Business. I think this is going to be a really quick, fast read. And I'm going to couple that with Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I'm not completely sure what this book is about, but this was a beautiful addition. I believe that this is a friends to lovers romance, and it's sort of set on this beach, and it's an interconnected series, and she writes a lot of them, and I've heard that it's going to be a television series, so I'm excited to read it. I'm going into it blind. I think I'd like to start blind reading some books without knowing too much about the synopsis or the plot, just so I can have more of an enjoyable experience. So I'm looking forward to these two, and I'll let you know what I think about them. Those were the 5 books that I read in August, and 2 books that I hope to read in September next. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, this is Kayla from Live, Laugh, Love Reading. Keep reading. Bye.